Hey youth, I'm Jake. This week we're continuing our series in Moses. We're glad you're here. Let's get started. Do you ever make up excuses to try and get out of something? When I was little, my parents would ask me to do something really easy, like take out the trash, and it would take me maybe a minute to just go and take out the trash. But instead, I would make up as many excuses as I could to try and get out of it. You know, I'd act like I couldn't hear them, or I would be like, oh no, I'm busy, I have to beat this level, you know, like don't bother me, can't my sisters do it? Or I'd act like I fell and broke my leg, and that one never worked. But at the end of it, I would spend like 5 minutes making up excuses, and I would, stomp my feet, and eventually I would take it out. But instead, it would just take me like 1 minute to just, shut up and do it. Well, in this story, today we're going to talk about how Moses came up with a whole bunch of excuses to try and get out of what God wanted him to do. Moses had thought, there's no way, God, you've got the wrong guy. You don't want me to do this. But we'll get to that in a minute. First, let's catch up to where we're at in the Moses story. Moses made some bad decisions. So Moses is a prince of Egypt, but he's an Israelite, and the rest of the Israelites are slaves to the Egyptians. So one day he decides he's going to go out and he's going to meet his people. But as he goes out, he sees this Egyptian slave driver beating this Israelite. And so he feels like he has to do something. So he steps in, but he takes it too far. He kills the Egyptian slave driver, and he tries to hide the body. So that day was very unsuccessful for him. So he goes back the next day, but these two Israelites, they see him and they're like, whoa, we saw what you did. Are you going to try and kill us like you killed that Egyptian? And they turn on him. They're scared of him and they want nothing to do with him. And on top of that, Pharaoh finds out what Moses did and he tries to kill him. So Moses, in his fear, he flees Egypt and he goes to start a new life somewhere else. Then Moses met God in the wilderness. So Moses is out and about one day, and he sees this bush on fire, but the bush isn't burning up, and he's intrigued by this, and he goes closer to investigate. And then he hears the voice of God, Moses, Moses. And then Moses replies,
Here I am.
Then God goes on to introduce himself. He says, I'm the God of your ancestors. I'm the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And I've heard the cry of my people, the cry of the Israelites, to be freed from their slavery and to be let out of Egypt. And I am going to use you, Moses, to do that. Then Moses said no to God. Moses says to God, look, God, you have got the wrong guy. I'm not the one you want. Who am I to go in front of Pharaoh and to ask for the Israelites to be freed? So God lays out this amazing plan for Moses' life, and then Moses replies with,
No.
Moses says, look, God, you've got the wrong guy. Who am I to go into Egypt and to ask Pharaoh, the most powerful man in the world, to release his slaves? That's not me. But God replies, he says, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to empower you and help you to accomplish this. But again, Moses, Then Moses says, I can't lead the Israelites. They're scared of me. They want nothing to do with me. But God says, I will give you signs to show them, to prove that I sent you. So then God, he has him drop his staff and it turns into a snake. Then he has him take his hand, put it in his robe and pull it out, and it's all diseased and gross. And then he puts it back in his robe, pulls it out again, and then it's completely healed. And then he says, if you take out water from the Nile River, I'll turn it all into blood. Then they'll believe you. But even still, Moses says,
I don't speak too good.
Moses says to God, I can't do this. I get all tongue-tied and twisted, and I can't speak. I'm not a very good speaker. And God's like, I made you. I made your mouth. I can make you a good speaker. But fine, whatever. Take your brother Aaron. He's a good speaker. Take him with you. I'll tell you what to say, and then you tell him what to say. So finally, Moses is like, okay, I'll do it. He finally says yes to God. The point is, don't say no to God. It's probably really unlikely that God is going to appear to you through a burning bush and ask you to deliver the Israelites out of Egypt. You're probably not going to get an opportunity to say no to God when he asks you to do that. But there are plenty of practical ways that we say to no to God every day. Every time we choose to sin and not do the right thing, we're saying no to God. Every time that we ignore him, we're saying no to God. Anytime that we choose not to read our Bible or to pray, we're saying no to God. Do not let any part of your body become an instrument of evil to serve sin. Instead, give yourselves completely to God, for you were dead, but now you have new life. So use your whole body as an instrument to do what is right for the glory of God. We need to learn to say yes to God. We're going to see later in this story that God is going to use Moses to do incredible things. And the same is true for us today. God wants to use you in powerful ways. All it takes from us is to say yes to God and to put our trust in him.